The problem I have with the majority of manhwa, especially on like the lower side of the rating, like the B, C, D-ish tier, is like, the concept can be really good, but they miss completely on the execution, especially on, the main character, um, writing their, especially personality. Um, Most main characters fall under two categories. You have the super quiet, you know, super strong, beats everyone up, power fantasy, and then you have like the super calculated, I might be weaker, but I have like 10 times the knowledge. And those like kind of fall under the same category of just like relatively quieter, very powerful characters. And on the other hand, you have the very benevolent, joyous, you know, pure soul type character. Um, and the problem with both characters is it kind of handicaps the manhwa into writing any meaningful character development, and it kind of pigeonholes the different kinds of relationships that a character can have. No, I'll start off with an analogy. Start off with a different example before I go into the manhwa I just finished. Um, let's take Sun Jin Woo for example. Most well known manhwa, and certainly the figurehead of the manhwa community. The one of the biggest issues with solo leveling is not the art or the world building, or because Gates at the time really revolutionary. It was the fact that he was like stone faced, and then all of a sudden you would make like some romantic progression that didn't really make sense, and then he would like have like such trust built in from the other Korean hunters that just didn't make sense. But the manhwa I just read, the etymologist of the Sichuan Tang clan, which is merman, which in general I think mermans are really good, has a higher ceiling. The problem with this character, this main character, is he is like too lovable, and it doesn't really fit in the merman world. And I get it; he was a transmigrator, so he's not exactly used to it. But he just like goes around all jolly, catching bugs and other poisonous creatures like he did in his old life. And then he stumbles into the Sichuan clan, and they take him in, and then he gets betrothed to the like daughter of the patriarch, and then like he gets all this support system, and he just kind of all happy, super happy in the face of danger, la di da di da, and like there's nothing wrong with a character like that, like it is a breath of fresh air, especially because like apart from like this type, you have maybe like from what's it called, Reformation of a Deadbeat Noble. That main character very benevolent, always upbeat. I'm trying to think of some other examples, but I can't really think of any. And then like he's like, oh, he's like so happy, but it doesn't make sense in a lot of contexts, you know. And then then all of a sudden the author decides to flip a switch, and all of a sudden he's like super badass for like half a chapter, and then boom, you turn off the switch, and some of it makes sense, like when he poisons himself to stop the circulation of the blood cult members. It makes sense that he poisons himself and charges in, and then he just goes immediately back, he reverts. It feels like there's no character progression, you know and main characters like that, it's a very frequent issue. Um, and like I don't mind it too much because at the end of the day, it's free content for me to read. But another issue, specifically with the main character development, is that everything just seems to come so easily to him. Um, and what I mean by that, I mean like most manhwas, or I would say most stories in general, like most really good stories that are fantasy, action based, is like you walk the path of thorns to get to the very. What the hell? to get to the very end. You you know like let's take Harry Potter for example. That guy, like in the first book, was it Sorcerer's Stone. I mean, like the school is on fire, and like he like 1v1's Quirrell, and Voldemort's on the back of his head, and like the stakes are high. It never really feels that the stakes are high. Like it always feels like, and that's part of it is that the pacing is pretty quick. It's like some fights aren't drawn out long enough, doesn't make the antagonist feel threatening, and on the other hand, also it like the fact that he gets everything on a silver platter kind of makes things very anticlimactic at times. And I worry, especially with a story, because I actually really love the concept. A guy who just like an aficionado on just poisonous creatures, and he goes around collecting this, and then the world building, merman, obviously really nice, and the plot, like it seems very interesting. Like, oh, there's a poison sex, and like maybe he needs to eradicate them. There's a blood sex, multiple things going on at once. I like that too, but it's like, what you're gonna get instantly three venomous centipedes that one in the first 50 chapters becomes like one of the 10 most like powerful poisonous creatures, and you have two of them already in the first 50 chapters, and then like you have like all of a sudden you have like your bee sanctuary with like a bunch of venomous bees that protecting the place, and it's like, at what point is he going to face actual hardship that's going to move his character forward? But not all manhwas are supposed to be super well written and super deep. Some of them are just supposed to be good reads that slop that you read at bed and like finish at like 5 a.m. in the morning. But no, at what point? Because like right now it's actually waiting on chapter 68. I'll probably just let it stack, if I was to be honest. Like it finally feels like he's actually gonna go through some hardship. Like his flying centipede, like it gets mogged by a different top 10 poisonous creature, and it's like, oh shoot, like the stakes are actually high, you might actually lose. But then of course then people show up, and it's like, okay, well, he gets bailed out. um but at the end of the day, if it's a good read, it's a good read, I guess. If it's entertaining, if it does enough to justify a read, I guess I can't say not to read it. Side tangent to end the video. Like I asked for recommendations on action fantasy manhwas that have nice romantic subplots that I could read and enjoy. Because I've exhausted through a couple, one of the slow burn T-bait, and then like, Northern Blade, yada yada yada. This is like, it doesn't feel real. The romantic relationship between the main character and the patriarch's daughter, the Tang, like the hero of the Tang clan, it doesn't feel real. Like, oh, okay, sure, they can get, like, they like kind of get intimate, they're always flustered. It's like, okay, well, they just met, and then all of a sudden they're like wed, and like it kind of, like the Tong clan, it kind of breaks the traditional norm of like what you're used to seeing in like a merman, a top merman sect. Like, why is the grandparents and the grandfather and the parents so eager to marry off their daughter to some guy that they picked up in the woods? And sure, he had some prowess, but he had no martial arts. All he knew was some venom and stuff, poisonous creatures. I don't know. It just feels like they like had a romantic relationship just to appease some fans, and at the end of the day, if that's what it has to be, it is what it is. That's all I have to say. What would I rank it? C plus, B minus. Honestly, I just like I like mermans, so that's why it's like maybe I'd lean towards a B minus. But really, like if you have a lot of other things to read, this is not really worth your time. The only thing that's cool about it is like I can't even say there's much cool about it. Mine is poison. I think I'm just salty that Venom Dragon hasn't come back yet. Yeah, that's about it. Also, like, it's kind of weird. Like, why, like 30 chapters in and bro's like kissing a bee, but that's beside the point. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have.